Hi folks, in this video we're gonna go through this code example from React documentation. It's titled Updating Context from a Nested Component, and they have these code in here. I've transferred the code to Code Sandbox. Let's start with theme context.js file. As with the last example that I have covered, it exports two things. First is an object called themes with styling information for light and dark themes. Another one that's exported is a newly created theme context, and the default values are set as follows. Firstly, the theme is defaulted to themes.doc, which is an object over here, and this is what's different from the last time. Here you also pass a dummy function, dummy arrow function called toggle theme. Okay, let's have a look at app.js file. Here you have imported theme context and themes from theme context.js file, and you also imported a component called theme toggle button. You can guess it is to do with the buttons over here. Before we go further, let's just have a look at what is rendered. First button, if I click on it, it toggles between light and dark theme, but the second button, the background stays dark no matter how many times I click on it. Okay, let's resume. In the app class, this is interesting. I think all of this code here is inside the constructor, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure what will happen if you define this function and the state outside of the constructor. I haven't tried, but maybe I will try later. Anyway, you have defined a callback function called toggle theme. You can guess what it is used for. Toggle theme is attached to the buttons so that it becomes a on-click event handler. What does it do? It just, well, let's cover the state first. The state has the same structure as theme context. It has theme and toggle theme, but this time theme is defaulted to themes.light. Toggle theme is actually fully defined here inside app.js. Toggle theme is whatever is defined over here. This is the complete implementation of this callback function. What does it do? It updates the theme property of the state. It simply toggles between the light theme or dark theme. So whenever you click on the first button, it toggles between being light background to dark background and so on. That's what it does. All of these definitions are stored in the state now, and as I said, it mirrors whatever is defined in the theme context by default. Okay, the only difference is the default theme is different, and also the toggle theme is fully defined in the state, whereas in the theme context it's just a dummy arrow function. Okay, let's look at what app.js component renders. Here I use the React fragment to wrap around multiple nodes. Okay, it's like an auxiliary class that you can wrap things around. Okay, so this renders the first button, and this the second button. In the first button, you're wrapping the content with the theme context provider, and theme context provider has the value set as this whole thing. Okay, so what it does, whenever you want to consume the theme context, in the content component, the value of the theme context will be this the state object. Okay. It says in the first, inside the provider, it's rendering the content, and content is over here. It's just a div that wraps around the theme toggle button. In the second button, it just directly renders the theme toggle button. Okay, so let's have a look at theme toggle button. This is neater than the last example, because to consume it, you just wrap whatever you want to render with the access to the context with the consumer tag. Okay, so it's rendering this now. What it does, it receives, because it's inside the consumer, it receives every it receives every properties that's passed inside the theme context. So it receives the theme and also the toggle theme. So theme is a object, toggle theme is a callback function that we've mentioned, and inside it you render a button, and here you define the on-click event handler to be toggle theme, and you define the background color to be theme.background. So it differs from the last example, because in the last example you had to manually pass a prop to the toggle button in order to attach a event handler, but here you're defining a event handler directly on the child component. That's the difference. It's much cleaner, much logical layout. Okay, so how come when I click on the first button it toggles but the second one doesn't? That's because in the first button it's wrapped around by the provider, and the theme context value is overridden with the state. But in the second one, it resorts to using the default values. So what are the default values? Themes is dark, so it's dark, and toggle theme, the callback function, is just a dummy arrow function. So even if I click it, it does nothing. So in the second button, because of this here, prop assign, even in the second button, on click event listener is set, but it's set to a dummy arrow function. So even if you click it, it does nothing. In the first one, each toggle theme is defined by the state. Okay, so let's I think I covered all. Let's revise a bit before we finish this video. What are the main points? Okay, let's just say okay, so at first you define a, let's say, shape, but I would say structure, bare bone structure of the theme context when it's created. It contains two properties, theme and toggle theme. Okay, and in the main app.js, you have a state that mirrors the theme context, but this time you have fully implemented the toggle theme here. And the difference between the first button and the second is that in the first button it's wrapped around by theme context provider with value overridden by the state. Okay, and I remind you the callback function toggle theme, in effect what it does, it toggles between themes. Okay, so that's what it does, but you have passed the toggle theme along with the theme in here. So the effect of that is the theme toggle button uses the toggle theme here directly. So that means for the first button it will toggle between light and dark, but for the second it won't, simply because the second button has no provider that overrides its value. Okay, thank you very much and see you next time.